Hello,
Absolutely.
everybody. Welcome, Ralph, to our show. Hello, Peter.
Hi.
Hello, Ralph. Nice to have you on the show. Hello, Armin.
May
Nice
the
to have
force
you
be
too.
with you. No?
May the force be with you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Everything
you
good in
for inviting me.
France?
Yeah, it's quite cold, but fine.
Mm-hmm. Where do you
Yeah.
live in France? In Franco? What's the name?
Hmm?
Where do you live in France?
Oh, I just live in the suburbs of Paris,
In
10
Paris. Okay.
kilometers north of Paris.
Okay, nice.
So I work in Paris city, and I live in the suburbs, and I
Mm-hmm.
make archery where I can.
Yeah, of course. What do you work, if I may ask? What's your work?
I work with computers, IT manager for
Uh, huh.
health company.
Okay, nice.
Mhm.
Very good.
But my real job, of course, is archery. All the other things is just to get some
The
money
rest is hobby that
to
you have
make
something to
archery.
do. Yeah, of course, to fill the gaps between shooting bow
Yes,
and arrow. I understand fully.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice that you have time today. Yes.
Yeah. Really appreciate that you are on the show.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
my 6th hour of video conferencing. I had 5 hours
Oh,
already, so
Okay.
just my ears are quite warm.
Oh, yeah, I know you
so
used
you're
to it.
trained. You're trained.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
I have
Great.
to say, Armin is screwing up science fiction stuff. He's making the Star Trek
Yes,
greeting and
absolutely.
saying you're on the right side of the force, or so, which is Star
I
Wars.
I have no
Yes,
idea of it. This is Star Trek. It was from Spock, right, Mr. Spock?
Yeah, this
Okay,
is
yes.
fine.
Star
Live
Trek.
long and prosper.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
live
yeah.
okay, exactly. Yeah, but you know what I mean. So what?
Yeah, of course. But I had
I'm
to
not
say it.
really a Star Trek, and I always mix them up, and I have no idea of this stuff. I'm not so into this, you know, future stuff. But
Yes.
anyway, so for all the people that don't know you, Raphael, you might want to introduce you quickly. So who you are, what you're doing, when did you start archery, how did you get into contact with archery, all this interesting stuff.
Well, yes, I'm just an archer from France. I live near Paris, and I started archery in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
so only 70 years ago. And I used to practice field archery, 3D archery in my
Mm-hmm.
regular club, and also a traditional French berceau shoot in another club. And I
Mm-hmm.
try to promote French traditional archery in France and in foreign countries, and I try to promote foreign traditional archeries in France.
In
So
France,
I
yeah.
try to make a link
You're a double
Mm-hmm.
agent.
between the
Yeah.
yes, yes. From time to time, I write articles about traditional archery into the only archery magazine in France, Tir à
Mm-hmm.
l'Arc magazine.
Yeah.
And I try to animate some groups. And you have met a friend of mine, Maël, a
No,
few.
Mael, yes.
Yeah, she's
So
nice.
we are in
Oh,
the same group.
Peter fell in love with her because
He always falls in love. We know
he
him.
was
No,
not
no, no, no,
expecting
no.
because he had an idea of what she is, of what you see,
Yeah, yeah, because
and then he was talking to her,
yeah,
and she was like, and he was mind blown. And yeah,
yeah, I had a kind of prejudice because she's making music, and I had the impression she's very alternative type of person.
mm-hmm.
And when we talked, so we agreed on so many things,
Mm-hmm.
also on critical things.
Mm-hmm.
She's not an. I thought saw her as a kind of extreme leftist,
Mhm.
and ideology and so on. But she's the opposite. She was really nice.
She's full of surprises.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And that was what surprised me. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Mm. But see, that's why Peter does not like me that much because we mostly disagree. That's why when you agree with Peter, you're his best friend.
then I'm happy. Then you're nice, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm simply silent then. So, but how
Yeah.
did you? Where did this idea come from that you start archery? Where did you get the contact that okay, I want to start shooting bow and arrow? How does this happen?
Oh, the first time I used bow and arrow, it was at school, but it was a poor experience because
Okay.
it was during a sports lesson with our
Mhm.
teacher, and he did that in a way that nobody liked archery at that time. And I did not touch a bow before going to a ski station during the summer in the one time,
Okay.
and there was a place to try archery. And I tried it again. And then there were some people, which was in the Alps, in south of France, the Alps mountain, and some people were here on training for France championship of 3D archery, and I saw that 3D targets, and they were using longbows, and they were very interesting people, and they said, hey, that looks interesting. So after that, when I went back home, I registered to an archery club, and I tried to learn archery, but it was Olympic archery. Luckily, in the same club, some people were using longbows. So I made 1 year of Olympic archery for training in a proper style, and I switched after that to Olympic bow to bare bow, and from bare bow to longbow, and from longbow to self bow, and from self bow to Korean bow, and from Korean bow to Chinese bow, and from Chinese bow to other types of bow. But you know how it goes.
No, where's French? Where's French archery?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you got interested in history of archery, and how did this happen then that you were so involved?
On the first year, I was interested in just making sport and using a bow which was good feeling with me. So that's what I was interested in, longbow. And I moved from one city to another, and I registered in an archery club, which was not a regular club, but the traditional archers company. And then I learned the French traditional shoot, Berceau shoot, and all the tradition and the history, and there were very interesting people who taught me a lot and explained me a lot about archery tradition, and I got hooked on it. And I began to attend some reenactments and medieval festivals. And by chance, in 2009, I was invited to attend a festival in Korea.
Oh, nice.
And it was an opportunity to discover a lot of things and to meet incredible people, Thomas Duvernay, Murat, and to discover all different types of traditional archery. So that's when I was completely hooked, and I couldn't do anything else after that.
I understand. Yeah. Cool. So 2009 was the first time you went to Korea, and then from that on, every year or every 2 years?
Almost every 2 years, I've been to Korea 7 or 8 times.
Nice.
Different festivals.
And there where you met then?
Yes.
2017, right?
Yeah. 2070, yes. And I like to say, I'm not the biggest fan of this old NGO, UNO, and so on, but that's a good thing. Because you really learn to get to know different cultures, and you see everyone is a wonderful person and so on. So that's really a good thing. One of the few good things they do, but this is a good one, I'd say.
Yes, absolutely. The best part of this festival for archers themselves is to have the possibility to meet people from other countries and to exchange with these people. Of course, we make demonstrations or we make parades in the streets, and it's a part of making a festival. But the best part for me is to meet archers from Korea, of course, but also archers from many countries. And I've been traveling in many countries. Like last time I went to Mexico, it was for a work trip, but I have the possibility to spend a few days with Mexican archers and to attend one of them field archery tournament. It was a wonderful time. When I go to now in Europe, I try to go once a year in England or in Czech Republic when it's possible, of course, because to see again some people I've met, and now we have made connection, and we come to France, I go to their country, and makes a lot of links.
And like you say, Ralph, with the festival in Korea, the show part is kind of not the important part. I had the impression not for the competing or for the archers, because like you said, the meeting and talking in the evening and eating together and having fun, it was really a nice experience.
And what was for you then in Korea the most interesting country or tradition in archery where you thought, oh, I didn't know that they do this, or that they do it like this? Or what was for you an aha moment? Or
well, the first time I went to Korea, I had no really good idea about traditional archery outside France, and I had absolutely no idea of Korean traditional archery. I had seen, like everybody, archery with kudos from time to time. You can see it on television in France. I had a little knowledge of Saracen archery because we have a lot of relations with Middle Eastern countries, and sometimes you have information about that, but I had no idea of, about Korean traditional archery. And I was very amazed because they were using these so solid short bows and these firm rigs that are completely crazy things, but that's amazing. When you do that, to try it, it's you have it on your finger and you use it first time and you say, hey, this arrow did fly quite straight. It's amazing. So that was the biggest shock for me.
Okay.
And since then, I've met, there are a lot of common points between Korean traditional archery and French traditional archery as we know it. We have a lot in common, and we don't know it, but a lot of points which are very interesting.
We all are pulling a string.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also they are taking traditional archery as a type of martial art, and there's a lot of work about behavior and the spiritual way of shooting, what you can get from archery, not only as a sport or having a result,
it's an
but
education
what you can get for yourself. And you have the same thing in France, and also a huge link of respect and relation with the ancient times on the older archers which were here before you. So that's very, very a lot of little things that are very common points.
Nice. Yeah. But I think it's almost in every traditional archery like this. Like I think that even in Turkey, they have this to there's this connection to the ancestors and to have this respect. And I think
of course in England,
don't know that, but I think there's some once you see it as this martial art, as you said, then I think it's self-explanatory that you have this all with this respect and all that you always think about your ancestors and what they did before. So I think it's common. Nice.
Ralph, what would you say? What is the special part of French archery? French archery, traditional archery. What would you say is the other things differentiating from other cultural archery cultures, traditions?
We are quite lucky because we have had a continuous use of archery from Middle Age until today in many places, like in Eastern Europe, for instance. They had almost forgotten the traditional archery during communist era, for instance, and they have relearned it again. But we have had from the Middle Age until today in France a continuous use of traditional archery on almost in the same way until today. So we have a special link, and we are also making things almost in the way it was made 800 years ago. And that makes a bond with the people, which is very interested. Of course, we can use modern materials, but when you use a self-bow and wooden arrows, and you shoot in the same way that the people were exactly the same way that the people were shooting 800 years ago, you have a feeling which is amazing.
I can understand.
That's very special.
What I meant is, for example, what is the difference between, let's say, traditional English archery and traditional French archery? Of course, if we go to the Far East, there's a lot of differences, but it's European kind of what makes French archery special.
Well, if you go to England, there is a famous image from a book which is called Luttrell Psalter, and it's an old image from the 13th century. And you see English archers, and they are shooting at two small buttes of earth. And it was a shoot which was made with two targets facing, and you were shooting from one target to the other, and back and forth and back and forth. It's a quite famous image you can find on the
shooting
internet.
At the butts, or how is it called?
Yes, absolutely. And it's exactly the same type of shoot that we are still doing today, but in England it's almost not done anymore in that way. So we are really keeping the same style and the same type of archery and the shooting back and forth in the traditional way, which was almost made in England in the 19th century. They were using big kind of fit our targets at 90 meters away, shooting back and forth, but it's almost not done anymore. In France, traditional archery is still exactly this type of shooting back and forth from the butt.
Okay.
But I must say there is a second type of traditional archery in France, but which is really limited from the north of France, just near Belgium. It's vertical pole shooting. So it's a big pole of 30 meters, and we are shooting a small target and try to put it falling from the pole. And it's also something which comes from the Middle Age, so it's very restricted. Burst shoot with to-butt shooting back and forth. It's something you can find mostly in the half of France, in the northern half of France, and little bit in the south of France. But the vertical pole is very close to Belgium.
Okay.
Isn't
two style of traditional archery, very old style, and almost the same rules and the same way of shoot, which was made.
That shooting back and forth is very clever, also because you don't walk just
yes.
You walk on the target, shoot at that and back, and so it's very clever. And this vertical shooting is kind of this popinjaying, no?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
popinjay is the name of a bird, and you are supposed to hit a bird at the top of the pole and make it fall. It's supposed to come from the War of Troy, and it's supposed to come from a legend because Patroclus, a cousin of Achilles, was killed, and to celebrate his death, the archers decided to make a tournament. And of course, they were just near the sea, so they decided to tie a bird on top of a mast, which was holding the sail of the boats, and make a tournament to see who would hit the bird. And the story says the first archer shot, but he did not hit the bird, he just cut the rope, and the bird began to fly away. And then a second archer just shot and hit the bird, and they say, "Oh, that's amazing! We must make it a tradition and do it again." It's most probably a legend, but it's a wonderful story.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And isn't it also in France? There's a kind of how is it called? A kind of combat like with walls, and you're going in the shooting lane and you shoot and you step aside or something like that.
No, I don't think
it's a kind of it's a kind of place arranged with walls in between and you're shooting.
Yes, that's the bow garden, which is a traditional shooting range, because basically archery in France in the beginning of Middle Age, it was made mostly in the cities and not in the countryside. It was not made in the countryside because the lords didn't want their peasant to use a bow and arrow and be able to kill the lord too easily. So it was not used in the countryside, but it was used in the cities by the police forces, which was militias, and they had to train somehow in the city to use the bow and arrow. And because they were in medieval cities, the streets were narrow, there was not a lot of places, so they had to shoot inside gardens for training. And this is why today our traditional archery range are still called bow gardens. And because it's kind of narrow and we are walking back and forth at the same time as people are shooting. In the shooting line, there's only one target. On the side, you used to have some trees, and today you have some plates of wood to protect the arrows who might go on the side to hit the people. So it's you have just one, sometimes two targets, and it's really a kind of corridor to shoot.
And a kind of like a street fight, no?
Yes.
Like a street fighting scenery. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because it was basically a training for people who were using bows and arrows inside the cities. So in the beginning of the 100 Years' War, when this damned English invaded France, of course.
The bad English?
Yeah, bad English people, boo. The English archers were very bad at shooting in the battlefield, but they were far better in skirmishes and in bushes in short distance because it was their regular training.
Even when you see here in Malta, the old city, the old capital Medina, the streets were designed that that you could shoot with bow and arrow there. So all these narrow streets were made, they were really designed for battle with bow and arrow.
And I think you told it to me, Ralph, that the nickname of the French policemen, the flics,
Yes,
came from this because they used bow and arrow, and flick means arrow, kind of, no?
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Cool.
interesting.
Yeah,
In
nice.
France, what you use the word cop to talk about a policeman, it comes from copper because they used to have copper badges. It's
Yeah,
English word.
okay.
But in France, we call them flic, and flic comes from the word flèche, which was
Flash.
the way that they were called
Mhm.
archers, because after the 17th century, the militias and the police forces in the city, they were not using any more bows and arrows, but they were still called the archers.
Mhm.
And when you were talking about policemen, you were talking about archers. And there were police forces, even if they were using rifles and muskets, they were still called archers until the 18th century, and the name was kept. And when somebody wanted to find a nickname about them, it was related to archery. So from archers, they become arrows. And the way to say it was slightly changed from flesh to flick.
I see.
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. But the shooting style was still arrow on the inside of the bow and throwing with 3 fingers, so like Mediterranean style.
Like real people do.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, well,
These thumb shooters are all a little gaga, I know. Yeah.
yes. Some
Crazy.
shooting in France, it came only at the end of 20th century. During all the 20th century, nobody knew anything about using the thumb to shoot a bow, except for people who were making kudo, but they were kind of really
you-
kind of sect
Yeah,
on,
that's just,
only in
yeah.
kudojo, and nobody knew anything about them. And in France, it was always your use of Western style and the Mediterranean release, and until almost today. And in traditional archery, we are still using official rules from the French Archery Federation,
Okay.
and we cannot use thumb release because the thumb ring itself is considered
It's
as
a
a
release aid.
mechanical device to help you release, so you are considered a compound archer.
Yeah.
So it's a rule
Everywhere
from
the same. Yeah.
yes.
That's right. That's right.
You can have good time and have fun if you don't worry about the scoring. You can have amazing time using traditional Korean bow or Chinese bow on the French archery range.
Ralph, I have a question because you say you have an kind of uninterrupted history or tradition of archery since the early Middle Ages. So, did the French took this kind of tradition to the colonies too, to Algiers or somewhere? So I could imagine if there were troops there, they had maybe an archery range, and so did they influence a little these cultures with this archery, or I don't know. I never heard about it, but it's an interesting question to me.
I have not read anything about it yet, so I have no idea, and I have no special information about it. As far as I know, there is no traditional French archery range outside France itself, what we call metropole, so the country, not in the islands or what was before the colonies. So there is no archery range. Some of them have been bought quite recently, but it was not historical. And I have no information about such a use. Of course, some people may have taken their bows and arrows and used them in remote places, but they didn't build something which remained until today. And nothing was kept, and I have seen no evidence, no picture, no information about that. Not special.
I even don't know if, for example, in Algiers they have a special archery tradition or so. I don't know. I never heard about this Western African, kind of Tuareg and Fox and I don't know.
We need to find one, invite him to the podcast.
Yeah, it would be interesting. You know something about it, Ralph?
Not specially. I have no special information about
Me
it.
neither. Me neither.
You have to find it.
There was once one video about the French release. Did you see this by accident from Right Dragon on YouTube? And he described that there was somewhere a description, and that's why he calls it French release, because it was most probably written in a French book, that they have the 3 fingers, but they use the index. They curl the index around the arrow, so the arrow doesn't bounce off. So you don't have to hold the arrow when you know what I mean? When you draw normally 3 finger, then the arrow can fall off your hand or whatever. And they curled the index finger kind of around the arrow. And this is, he called it then the French release. So, but it doesn't ring a bell. So you didn't.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
Especially from all the bows I've seen from the 19th century and the early 20th century, they always had a nocks. And usually when you are using Mediterranean release, you can just touch the knock, but of course not press it, otherwise the tip of the arrow will go up when you pull. So it's something you can get used to. So I don't see the point of curling the finger around it. Especially, I think it would not be good for the release itself. It would make the release more complicated, the possibility that the string hits the finger after that. So I don't see the point.
Okay.
And
I have no special information about it.
And the French traditional archers are using kind of English longbow types since the Middle Ages, kind of similar bows.
Yes, like it was almost the same type of bow. Of course, it was a D-shape self bow. When the English bastards invaded France in the 100 Years' War, they were cutting all the good wood on the yew trees to make their bows.
From whole Europe.
France, yes. The King of France decided that you cut all the yew trees and you burn the wood so the English can't use it. And after that, of course, there were a lot of use of self-bow in France until the 17th century, when it was almost
and which
forgotten.
Wood? Elm wood or what?
Yeah, the first quality wood you could find in France was yew wood, but after this 100 Years' War, it was very difficult to find, and you know how difficult it is to find a good stave of yew wood long enough to make a self-bow. It's kind of complicated. So the second choice is elm wood, of course, and sometimes ash tree for the very poor people who could not find, but mostly it was, and wood. You could also find some wood in the south of France made with cities, which is a type of wood which is called bow wood in some books. It's a wood which comes from a bush tree, so it's also very difficult to find a good piece of wood long enough to make a self bow. And laburnum, I think it's the word in English, and it's very difficult to find. So I think mostly you could find elm bows. It was D-shape self bows like you could find in England, in France until the end of the 19th century. Then you could find laminated bows, which were more practical and more reliable. Most of them were made in Belgium.
Okay.
And some of them were not made with the best quality of wood you could find for a bow. You know, if you want to use good quality wood for the bow, it must have a good spring and of course resist to the pressure. And some of these bows were made with a precious exotic wood, but just for good looking, not to increase the performance. And it was laminated bows, which were very like Victorian bows. It was takedown bows after the second half of the 19th century until the middle 30s in the 20th century in France, when in 1933 there was a patent made in France for a special type of small takedown bow made of aluminum alloy, which won a contest of invention, which was very famous in France, but it was not produced because of the World War II. And after World War II, it was produced, and it was the main bow which was used in field French archery.
Aluminum bows.
From the
aluminum bows.
Aluminum bows, yes. Between end of Second World War until the beginning of 60s, when the fiberglass bows came and replaced easily these aluminum bows, which were very complicated, a lot of handshake, and they were using bicycle brake cables as a string. So it was very, very shaking, not very comfortable. I've used one, and it's very not practical, but it did work.
They say they
So
are
it
also.
has always been long bows.
They say also these are dangerous, these aluminum bows, because
Yeah, they
they
explode with no warning.
yeah, they kind of getting weak and older and brittle and so on.
Yes.
That laburnum you mentioned is Goldregen.
Goldregen, okay.
It's kind of like you say, a brush with yellowish
Yeah.
plumes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it must be
Okay.
this one, yes.
yeah.
Goldregen.
It's a very, how you call it, say,
See.
it's not very strong, but you can't break it.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
This laburnum, yeah,
A lot of spring in it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
Not very powerful in
Yes.
my opinion, but it don't breaks.
Yes. In the 1970s, 80s, there were incoming in France of a weird type of bow. It was introduced by the guy Howard Hill. Maybe you've heard about it, Peter.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
With this
Didn't make it in
strange,
France,
huge grip and the square shape of limbs. Personally, I don't feel comfortable with this type of grip, but it came with a very huge success, and also with the style of shooting, which is called soft instinctive style of shooting, which is typical what you can find with Howard Hill, and very useful in field archery, stump shooting, and it remains until today one of the most interesting way of shoot.
there's a
longbow in
kind of Howard Hill population in France. I know since many years. Yeah,
Yeah, and you can find very good bow makers in France who make amazing bow over the other side today.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh yes,
I've seen it at your how is it called, blog, and also in other pictures. Yeah, yeah.
yes. So some make wonderful bows with a lamination of U, OZH, and eventually laburnum, and they work very well. I just don't feel comfortable with that grip specifically, but
you need to like it.
It works,
Don't
yes.
like
But you know, if you buy an custom bow, you can have a smaller handle too. You must not have this big one.
Yes.
Yeah. In my opinion, a well-made Howard Hill style bow made with bamboo limbs and glass is one of the best performing bows around.
It works well. It works
because I always say it's like a Formula One car. It's just a grip and limbs and nothing more, and not too much material, too much mass in the limbs, so they are fast hitting.
Yeah, for me as a flat bow, I'm using a Harrier bow from Border, which is a glassless limbs. So it's just carbon, wood, bamboo, carbon, and no fiberglass. It's a reflex bow, and it's very, very fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for 3D archery and traditional archery, 50 meters, it's very, very efficient, very comfortable. So that's extremely fast. And I find it of course, now you have bows with a lot of carbon and modern things, but if you go to a more traditional bows, traditional lamination, bamboo and they feel extremely comfortable and very good, and they work well. And if you don't look for special high velocity and you want the pleasure of a good thing and a good quality of good object, piece of art in your hand, you can have wonderful bows that way. Yes.
You know what Byron Ferguson said to me when I asked him about the using of carbon in bows.
Yes.
I said, Byron, what is the difference if you're using carbon in your longbows? And he said, well, the difference is I can charge you $100 more. I'm not impressed by carbon. If you have nice fiberglass and bamboo, in my opinion, that's the best.
It can be good enough. The idea is not always to find the most effective material, but when you are using a bow, you are using also something which has been crafted, something which has been ordered just for you with the type of wood you wanted. Eventually, you can choose the the pieces of wood, and you have it made for yourself and adapted for you specifically because you are tall, you are small, big long arms, short arms. And when it's made for you, and it has been made for you by a skilled craftsman with beautiful pieces of wood, it's your bow. Maybe it will not be the fastest, but it will be your bow, and you will feel good with it, and that does matter.
In that kind of thinking, I'm more a kind of straightforward. I want the best bow. I don't need fancy veneers or something. It has to be very plain and working, good performing, and so on. But that's a kind of taste. Yeah. In my opinion, in laminated bows, for example, chew wood is overestimated. In my opinion, it's not as good wood for laminated bows. In my opinion, there's bamboo is superior to, in my opinion. But who loves, as like you say, the feeling of the chew, and it draws more smoother, and so yeah.
Good that there's a variety out there to fit every need and every whatever you like. That's fine.
Yes. You can always find a type of bow which you will find beautiful, and I want this type of wood, or I want this type of carbon because I want a high technology and whatever you want. But you can find something which suits you.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm still not the biggest fan of carbon in bows or on bows. I had last time 2 bows here, and this bow here, heavy reflex bows, and he made the carbon on the outside and no protection layer on it. And this carbon got a little brittle and broke, and then the whole bow broke. So this was a little dangerous.
And especially if they put it somewhere in the center or where, I don't see the purpose of this carbon layer.
It's a stability thing. They say that carbon is in this direction.
Everyone can make it without it since
but you know,
years, and now it's better for stability. I don't get it.
This is what I always say when I have now a good normal laminated bow with wood and fiberglass. If they would have this materials 500 years ago, they wouldn't have done with horn and sinew and wait 2 years until the bow is ready, because it performs almost the same, sometimes even better. So you need to go with the time. That's why they made aluminum bows. That's why we have even fiberglass. Even you have fiberglass on your bow, so it's not really.
And I always say, all these traditional archers we adore today, they were in their days not traditional archers, because they always tried the best and modern thing to
something new. Yeah, of course. To reinvent the bow and arrow.
That is what is interested into IFAA rules about historical class, because you must use materials which was available in the beginning of 20th century and nothing after that. So you can have laminated bow with bamboo eventually, but no fiberglass, no modern accessories, of course wooden arrows, and that makes this class highly interesting. Of course you can use a thumb ring. I love that class.
Or plastic,
I use primitive bows or Asian bows. It's wonderful.
Yeah, nice, of course.
That's a kind of problem with all these traditional classes, and so, because I always said the tradition from which place and at which time. So it's not
what is tradition. I mean, when you check on Google, then tradition means what is done over 2 generations. Then even the modern Olympic recurve bow is now a traditional bow, because we use this now since.
It is indeed, because we talked about this term. Traditional archery was invented by the Americans when they invented the compound bow in the late 1960s. Because they said, we are the traditional archers with recurves and long bows, and these are not traditional with the compound bow. So
that's why you hear from the Americans, what is traditional? If it has wheels on it, it's not traditional.
What we are usually talking about when we are talking about traditional archery is historic archery, more historical kind archery.
That's true. Now I forgot what I wanted to say, but it's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's my brain today, not really.
That also was a kind of problem to me when I went to Korea, because they invited me as a typical Austrian archer. But there is no such thing like Austrian typical clothing for archers or something. So I took Wendy with me. She was the Austrian part was still, the nice
And she had
dress.
quite a success.
That was a nice idea, I know.
Yes, of course. The same problem in Spain, for example, I had a friend from Spain, Alvaro, who went to this festival in Korea, and he said, "Hey, we've had no archery since the Saracens left Spain, so we have no traditional archery." And he went to Korea with a Turkish bow because it was all he could find, which was almost traditional. But what is traditional? Is it traditional from your country? Does your country still have a real traditional archery remaining, or is it something which was imported from the Ottomans, Saracens, or other type of invaders eventually, which we can use after a few generations?
Or like the Germans, they then use a kind of medieval dress and act as archers with a medieval costume, but that's not the kind of true tradition of an archery clothing or so.
Yes, when I go to festivals, I'm using an English longbow, which is exactly the type of bow you could find also in France. So
and your pirate hat.
It does work. Eventually, yes, it depends. I have a Viking outfit. I have
how is the real name for this kind of hat? I don't know. In German, we
tricorns for the head on the
like Dreispitz, tricon.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a nice leather jacket and
Yeah, because even at this time, some people were using bows and arrows. It was, as I said, it was continuous used in the cities, and the tradition was kept, and the rules and the way to shoot was completely kept and still practiced in every century. So I can use outfit from any century and say it was
authentic.
used for archery. It's authentic as it was.
Yeah. That's good. I should have dressed myself as Ötzi, maybe. It was in Austrian.
Yes.
I would have massive problems with Malta because we don't have an archery history here. So,
I think also Saracens and so on were in Malta.
Of course. We had then the Ottomans with the Great Siege, but then they started already with the crossbows, but bow and arrow. I went the first way when I went to Malta 9 years ago was first in the War Museum. I said, "Where are the bows and arrows?" "Oh, we don't have." And then I don't go in. Then I went to Gozo, the small neighborhood island. War Museum in it. Where are the bows and arrows? Yeah, we don't have.
With that Eastern kind of archery, Turkish and Saracen and Hungarian or Magyar or how you like to call it and so on. It's very difficult, I think, because they kind of like the same bows and the cultures mixed up, because 100 years they were the Saracen, then the Turkish came and the Turkish went to Hungary and so on. So it's not easy to be a kind of patriot that's just Hungarian or that's just that. It's difficult, in my opinion.
Yes, as I said, there was no really French bows in the previous centuries. They were using bows which was exactly the same as the English archers, and after that they were made in Belgium, and there was almost no bow maker in France before the second half of 20th century. So we call it French bow because it was a bow which was used in France, but it was not obviously typical and made specially in France for French archers. Of course, it was made in the most efficient way you could make a sledge bow, and it was the same way to make a sledge bow efficient in France or in England or in our country, into Western Europe, with the same type of bow. Makes sense.
And if you think back then in more earlier times, of course, all around the world they used just simple stick bows. They made a kind of long bow because it's easiest to make and hunt it or.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Ralph, back then, when I started archery in the 1990s, there were in Germany a nice archery shop. It was called Robin Sport, like Robin Hood Sport. It was in I don't know, in the Ruhrgebiet, how's it called, in the Ruhr area. And they had a very nice catalog with nice pictures. They had from the compound bow to English longbows, everything you can imagine, Tata bows, everything, very expensive and so. And they had inside kind of, I think, bows from Belgium. They were kind of English longbows, but they had like a Viking ship knock,
Yes, the knock was quite big, and it was curved frontwards.
Yeah,
and it was the same thing that you could find in England, because it was a big hook with a hole, and you could put a lace to keep
plus
your
the
string.
yeah.
So it was used as a string keeper. But of course, if you look at the efficiency of having such extra weight on the top of limb, it's absolutely not efficient.
Not
but
good.
it was good looking, and they had different type of shapes, sometimes shaped like chase pieces, like horses or foals, and but it was absolutely not for efficiency, and not in special purpose. Of course, it did help with the second string to hook it good and avoid it to the good string to go away when you string your bow. But from my
maybe
point
to
of view,
search for
was,
arrows.
that's more the pointy knocks in England. Yes.
And this special type had in this catalog a center fiberglass. Otherwise, it was a kind of self-bow, but with one fiberglass, I think, in the center.
Interesting.
And there was another type of Belgian bows. It was like an English longbow, but it was more like a flat bow with glass fiber in the takedown to put down to put together in the handle. They looked very nice to me back then. I never saw them again. Are they common in France or in Belgium?
They used to be common in France, in Belgium, and they were used especially when in bird shoot. And so bird shooting at 50 meters in France. We went from aluminum bows from the 60s to fiberglass bows, and very, very fast we went to recurve fiberglass bows, and to recurve Olympic bows. But for vertical pole shooting, the long bows made of one or two pieces of fiberglass as a takedown bow, and just stick together at the handle, it was still used until the end of the 19th century. 90s, yes, in the 20th century. So it was mostly the type of bow which was used for vertical pole shooting.
I think they called it popinjay bow or something in that catalog.
Yes. Because it was especially made for vertical pole shooting. You use blunt arrows, which are very, very heavy, because it's a piece of arrows are made of oak, and they are type of big head, which is a cycle of horn to hit the target. So it was quite heavy arrows. And if you wanted to shoot this arrow at least 30 meters high with enough energy to hit the target, it had to be kind of strong bow. So it was at least 50-pound bows. And the archers who were shooting popinjay, they were called iron arms, because you had to have strong arms to shoot, especially
upwards,
well position. Yes.
But they did it standing, right? So they stood under the pole and shot upwards,
they
because
looked
something similar in Asiatic countries where they do it on horseback. You see
absolutely in Turkey, when you hit the steel disc, yes.
But it's not 30 meters. I think it's only 10, 15 meters or something.
Yeah, but on horseback.
On horse, of course. I didn't say it's easier, you know.
And this kind of bows looked very nice, because I think they were a little whip-ended, like slightly, you know, I don't know, I call it whip-ended, like that, little shaped limbs, not just a arc. Interesting.
Reflex, deflex. You can get your hands on one of these bows still? I would like to try one.
I have one in my bedroom.
Oh, you have one? Are they still on I don't know, eBay France available?
No, you can find some pieces on the like eBay, when some people they cleaned their old houses and they found it on caves.
What was the brand? How were they called?
Oh, I don't have a special name on it. I don't have a sticker with the brand. It was a regular full fiberglass bow, which was sometimes painted to almost look like brownish. So it was looking like wood from a distance, but it was pure fiberglass.
I thought in this Robin sports catalog that were laminated limbs. I don't know, with glass fiber.
There were different types, and there were also a brand which was called Imperial, which was quite famous, and they were making strong bows, 60 to 70 pounds, and they were very famous but very handshaking, and they destroyed a lot of shoulders.
And they had
years after years.
they had two little plates for shelf, I think, on each side.
Yes, yes.
Ambidextrous,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
nice. And I
yeah.
can shoot thumb release with it. That's fine.
Yeah,
Now you
yeah.
can.
And takedown. So these were handy bows, I
Interesting,
think.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I developed them
takedown
nowadays.
has been used in France from the end of the 19th century. You find them on almost each picture in the beginning of 20th century. Almost all the bows are takedown.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could find some on the flea market in France, no? Kind of.
Not anymore. I've been there too many times.
You all bought them.
A few of them.
You bought them.
Yeah. Not anymore. Yeah.
And here you see, you wouldn't find any kind of bow and arrows in Germany and Austria on garage sales or flea markets because we have no tradition of archery. And in France, in England, and in America, of course.
Look in America with our friend, he goes to whatever around the corner flea market and goes home with 5 bows and 300 arrows every time.
Yeah.
Obviously, takes a photo then of his
$10 an old Ben Pearson bow or something like that. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And
you absolutely need to come to France. We have a very special archery museum in France, which is the only public archery museum, as far as I know, in Europe.
Your friend was with you in Korea. This one woman and the mayor.
Yeah, of the same city. Yes, absolutely.
Is the mayor still the boss of the W? Because he got president back then.
Officially, but I think this type of association was related to the city of Yecheon, and especially the mayor of Yecheon at this time. On the mayor changed because there were another election, and the new mayor, he made another festival a few years ago. But since then, I have not heard about it. Of course, there have been all the trouble of the pandemic, we know, but I don't know if the new mayor is as involved in this topic, but the previous one was, and I hope so. But you need to come because they have a wonderful collection of display bows and arrows, but have a huge stock of bows and arrows in the stocks in reserve. We can have access, private access to some special things.
You could do directly a few bow reviews there.
You could make a clip you're filming through, and we can use it. And so, it was very funny because Wendy, she was with me in Korea, had nothing to do with archery before, except we are friends, and it happened on this occasion. It was the kind of official founding of this VTW. I don't know. And and Wendy and me became founding members of this society.
Yes. We are officially founding members.
Wonderful, yeah.
And so she had a bow in her hand, but she's founding.
She got the tag and kind of document and so on. She was amazed about, I'm traveling here I have nothing to do with it, but now I'm founding member of this society. Very nice.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was a good idea. This society was meant especially for the Koreans because they hoped to integrate Korean traditional archery as part of UNESCO intangible heritage.
Culture.
They have been working on it for many years. And the first to make it was the Turkish. So well done, guys, because it's always a victory for all traditional archers. So it's nice. But I don't know if the Koreans are still willing to make this case and still want to be classified as intangible heritage. It's a good idea, good project. In France, we have been trying to make it for the last 15 years. We are now officially recognized as intangible heritage inside France by the Ministry of Culture, but our case has not been pushed to international level yet.
And I have to interrupt you because if you think for what shit they are throwing money out of the window, like we say in Germany and in Austria, throwing money out of the window, for what kind of studies and NGOs and stuff, nobody needs to count the bees on the meadow, I don't know. And if you have a real nice thing with a museum and a nice mayor and nice guys, they would organize all that stuff. They don't support it. That's horrible, in my opinion. No,
it's politics.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But we hope to make it somehow.
Even
we
here,
talk-
9 years in Malta. This is, I always, always, you had first a mayor, he is very interested. Yes, wow, good idea. Write a proposal, and then you can have the ditch down there with olive trees and do your archery down there. Then at home, write the proposal. Go there again, next meeting, he's with the friends of the council, and then there are two people sitting, council members. And then they look at me, so you want to do some business down there? But we have to tell you, we have other interested parties. Said, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't bribe any mayors. And then I go home again.
Listen, I found out something, and I'm sure it is like that. If you're walking to a mayor or to kind of official who needs to, you like to that he supports you, your project or something, then you don't have to tell him, oh, it's our history, it's good for the people, it's sports or nothing. What really makes sense, you have to tell him. But you know what you have to say to him? You say, we will make nice pictures and nice newspaper articles, and you are the founder of this shit, and you will get to all the media, and you will blame your political enemies. Say, look, I have done it. And then he will think, oh, that's a good idea.
I told even one mayor, we can even name this archery range after you. It's then the blah 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 archery range.
Yeah.
Push his ego as far as I can, but
so that don't work.
Was not interested. This is hilarious.
I mean, it was so fun in Korea in the evening. We were, how is it called? It were kind of the house where we slept. How would you call it? It was a kind of holiday house for Catholic priests to get to in their vacation or something.
Kind of monastery, but there are rooms for visitors, for retreats.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it was a holiday refuge for
people
priests.
who want to spend a few days or a few weeks just in prayer and be out of the city.
And nuns are running it, Korean women with Catholic nun outfits. So very nice sisters, we have to say. And in the evening we were there, and then I didn't compete it, but they had miniature 3D animals and miniature bows, in the front of the hotel or of this refuge. So nice, so funny.
Yeah, they were brought by Cecily. They are very fun, these mini bows. You can use them at any time. Yes.
Always have to have one with you.
And there you could see how crazy archers are.
Yes.
But soon
we can do whatever we want.
Soon I get 3D printed Manchurian style bows in this size.
I have
3D printed, really.
And he made already a quiver for his pinky finger. You need to imagine that he started shooting then he wanted fast shooting with this small 1:7 scale Manchu bow, and he wanted to shoot fast, and then he had no problem where to put the arrows, and now he developed a nice quiver for the pinky finger, so you have the arrows on the pinky.
It's amazing.
I have to show to Ralph what I did on miniature.
Oh yeah, of course.
Look, I made a miniature Bowman with quiver.
Yes.
Nice.
On almost the same jacket.
And the scarf and so on. And there's a little magic to it, because I made this bow out of a broken real Howard Hill bow limb. So the glass fiber is on front, and there's just a bamboo on the facing. So it's a kind of magic.
The real Howard Hill material.
Yes.
Fancy. We all crazy.
Upcycling. It's nice.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it has a kind of magic to it, because it's made from a real bow.
Yes.
To me, I'm not a spiritual guy, but
no, not at all. No. Oops.
No.
Don't break your bow now.
Yeah. And this was a very cheap puppet. It was a kind of special forces soldier, with a helmet and pistol and so on. And it cost, I think, 27 euros. But then I looked out on eBay for a jacket like this. This is a kind of, a Rommel's Nazi jacket and trousers matching, and so I thought I have to make a Bowman.
Where are the sunglasses?
Broken. I have to replace them because they're so tiny,
Yeah, but piece of wire and a bit of dark.
No.
No, it needs to be the original one, but small.
He needs.
It's in the same price as a
He needs Ray-Ban.
Yeah, of course, he needs a Ray-Ban. Yeah.
And of course, I made him a little target.
Of course, and he has already, because it's the Bowman, he has already his own Barbie doll, right?
An assistant, Wendy.
An assistant. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's okay. It's all part of the Bowman marketing strategy, of course.
Yes. And I've seen by the likes and so on, the people can't resist it. If you make a kind of miniature of something,
always
they like it.
People always like it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Always play with dolls.
Oh, yeah. Once you come in this age, you
Yeah, the only thing is left to do is playing with dolls.
Nothing else is working anymore. Oh, yeah.
Right, but it was fun. It was hard work, but it was also fun to make these arrows. These are real feathers, and I don't know if you can see it.
You made a proper knock, yeah, okay.
Yeah, with a kind of little Dremel tool, I cut the knock.
Yeah.
And with a silver, that kind of silver felt pencil, and an original arrow wrap, a white one, and from a tin can I made this kind of, a slot and with super glue.
Oh, they are sharp eventually.
Hey.
Yeah.
Bowman kills,
Yes.
not only Machete kills, no, Bowman kills.
Putting the feathers on was a little as Zen Buddhist stuff.
Absolutely.
But you could give your bow to one of these 3D printers, and they can scan it and 3D print this bow.
Yeah. Yes, because I thought, in fact, if you like to sell this fixture, so he should have two bows, one in full draw where you can position him in full draw, but it has to be a bent bow from the beginning, and the other one, which is a real bow.
And the working one that you can shoot directly at the office when you're bored, like ding, ding. It's so relaxing.
Yeah.
Depending to who. If you are on the good side of the bow, it's relaxing for you.
You need to, of course, see that you have this in a nice gift box and a nice stand where the bow is on it and the arrows on your office, and then on one side of the box, you open it and there's a small target in it. And you simply grab your bow, bing, bing, have a bit zen on your desk, and then everything is fine again.
But I never knew they're making this kind of shoes. They're like real shoes with real,
Yeah.
And they cost so much like real ones, like big ones. No, not that much, but 15 euros are these shoes. So if you go to a very cheap shoe shop and buy for yourself, so cheap pair, it's not more expensive.
Yeah, only because it's small doesn't mean it has to be cheap. Funny. Yeah.
But if you go to a kind of tailor, and you say, make me just a small jacket for this puppet, it would be more expensive than 15 or 20 euros. If
the material is not the thing, but the work, and then the small tedious, you need to be very precisely. So when somebody cannot do it, it's almost not possible.
I mean, you have a guy who is able to 3D print kind of that bow or something.
Malta, I had once this drawing of this Korean male ring.
Sukaji.
The complete 3D drawing with all measurements, and then I wrote to a few of these 3D printers here and said, listen, can you print me this ring? I didn't even get a reply.
Really?
Malta is not really, I don't know.
No businessman.
It's horrible.
I don't know if Sukaji in 3D would be fine, because you have to have something which is quite smooth for the string to
but it's
slip on it. But 3D will always a lot of
but you can still
edges. You have to smooth it.
Yeah, exactly.
I also thought if you have all the components of this Bowman feature, because the soldier had a lot more stuff. He had hand grenades and 2 guns and a pistol and a helmet and a lot of accessories. And this one would only need the bow, the quiver, and very little, not very few items. So, and that one costed 27 euros. So maybe if you let it produce in China or somewhere, must not be expensive.
So expensive.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you want to make your own thumb ring with a special shape, I mean, you must ask Murat, but you can ask for also any dental surgeon, because they are using some kind of resin to mold your teeth, and Murat does very nice thumb rings, the same material, and you can make it in the shape you want. You can sand it to
the perfect
shape.
Material. Yeah.
It's a good quality
but I
material.
had there's custom thumb rings archery in America, and they always ask me, which ring could we make? Do you have an idea? I said, yes, I have this drawing of this male thumb ring, and they made it then, and then they sent me one, and it was nice, and they sell a lot of
thumb ring. Yes, they make it quite well. Interesting, because it's 3D printed, so inside you still have the small edges, which make it
gets a
comfortable,
bit rough,
but outside is very smooth.
It's smooth, exactly. Yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
You know what I did with a horn thumb ring back then, because I had one to showing it in my archery schools, and it was too big for me. I lined it with suit leather. I made very, very thin suit leather. I grinded it down, with sanding paper, and glued it inside, so it was very sticky. Nice.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, they had even the Turkish ones had then the small leather strap inside.
Yes, to prevent the string to grab
exactly, and then
just your flesh here. Yes,
it's nice, works nice.
It works well. Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. See,
I try to do. I always use it with my hand thumb ring. I'm using this piece of leather. I think it's quite practical, because you don't have to watch on to be careful, and you don't hurt yourself anytime.
You slide back, and it rests on the leather and not on the skin.
Yes.
You don't pinch your skin. It's easy going. Yeah. When did you start thumb release?
Well, when I went to Korea, 2009.
Okay.
But I don't do only thumb release. I also do I switch from bow. My pleasure is to use different types of bow. I can use a long bow in the morning and the Korean bow in the afternoon.
Exactly. And the compound bow in the night.
So you're kind of
no, I can't use a compound bow. Something I can't. Just I don't feel good with it.
So you're kind of a bow bigamist.
Yes. Well, I use Korean, Chinese, and long bow, flat bow.
Which is a good thing. I like it too. The variety is what makes it interesting. Yeah, of course. And even the different shooting styles and everything is, as long we all shoot bow and arrow, but it's always different and something.
It's even different if you use a Chinese bow with a very long draw length, and the Tartar bow, which is quite short. It's different style, and it's always interesting.
Yeah. But these, I don't know, the very new compound bows, but these older compound bows, if you shoot them without the sight, they're also fun to shoot.
That was the first. This was the first bow I started bow and arrow with it. Not this one exactly, but this model, the brown bear from Fred Bear.
You never had one?
Tiny wheels.
I got it for the junior boss of the company I worked. He had one. He said, "Here, take it, have fun." And after 3 months, he said, "Now I need my bow back." But then it was enough time to get me infected with this virus, And this one, no injection helps. This is.
You see, even the compound bow works for infecting.
Yeah, and this was, he shot from the shelf instinctively, so there was no sight.
I did the same with my first.
Completely instinctive, no problem. But even with modern ones, I guess you can do it. I order now in France. There is a dealer who sells these Oneida bows.
Yeah,
still Oneida, yes.
And I wrote them.
Oh, I would love to have one. Yeah.
I wrote them now an email if they can get me the long draw version, which does 31 inches, but a left-hand one, because I want to shoot thumb release.
Yes.
One. I want to try. I need to try this, but they didn't get back to me. I don't know what's happening with them.
But with this very modern compound bows, I think it's very different, because they have so much let off. You can pull them and let them hang down, and the string stays. Really, I had one in my hands. That's weird if you shoot with them.
Of course.
But these older ones who had a little let off, you draw it over the point.
Yes.
You have to switch. If you use maximum let-off, it's too weak and you don't feel stable. If you
You
want to
feel
be
nothing,
stable,
yeah.
you must have a little poundage. So you
Yeah.
must reduce the let-off itself to feel comfortable, to be stable.
Yeah.
That's a minimum. They say so. I don't use it, but they say so.
You would say, if you would
don't
use
touch.
it, don't get on the dark side of the force.
Oh, no way. No way. But
it's fun
Oneda,
too.
they are made, I think, especially for
It's fun
finger
too.
release.
That's
yes.
nice.
Came
New
not
ones.
assembled, and I have no idea how to put all these cables and strings on it.
It looks nice.
But I managed today. Came today. Yeah, it's my.
But with that one, you for sure can kill a rat or something.
It's 25 pounds or something.
Wow.
So it's not so bad.
No.
I shot an arrow in the wrong place. It was quite speedy. Yeah? It's for a special project. Yeah.
You wanted to say something about the Oneda bows, right?
Yeah, Oneda bows, they were made, I think, basically for using with 3-finger release and not with mechanical release.
Yeah.
So they are quite comfortable, and even the angle of the string is quite short. It stays comfortable.
Yeah.
But if I had to use a compound bow, I would absolutely use a thumb ring.
Definitely.
First
I thought, shall I get one with 28-inch draw, and then, but why should I shoot three fingers? I only don't know how the handle is. If you can have a left-hand version in the left hand and it feels still comfortable, but I guess because the handle looks quite symmetrical, so I think it's fine. And if not, you need to modify the handle a bit.
Yeah.
I have to show to Ralph that traditional compound bow, that old one I have. Just a moment.
Show it, yeah.
Yes.
I hope that they get back to me. That was the only Oneda dealer I found in Europe. It's the one in France.
Yes, there are very few places to buy some Oneda. Yes, they are quite rare. But now, if you can look at modern compound bows, there are not so much left and that are right, and they are very center shot. But they are almost symmetrical, and there is no right hand.
I don't like these. I don't like.
Look at that beauty.
Yeah.
Completely made from wood.
Yeah.
And very massive. That's a kind of traditional bow, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is traditional, right?
Now,
yes.
Here's another kind of cam.
Yes.
But it was back then split limb. It was very sophisticated for these days. I think it's an old Ben Pearson. And look, that sophisticated arrow rest. It is a kind of brush. Very interesting.
For hunting arrows.
Yeah.
Makes no noise, doesn't deflect.
Yes.
Very heavy, close to no let off. You throw it like a recurve bow. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
You can adjust it some, I don't know, the draw weight or something. I don't know.
Yes. This one will not break.
I don't think so.
Nice, but it's quite massive, this thing.
Very heavy. Yeah. But I couldn't resist buying it. When I saw it, I had to have it. I shot it 3 times, I think. I tried if it shoots, and now it's a wall hanger.
I shot this one once for the video, and then since then it stays there because it's very old and I don't know how long it will last. That's why it's because this one started my archery life, this bow. That's why I wanted to have one. And a friend in America, Scott, he found one on eBay and said, "Oh, look here on eBay, they are so cheap because everybody had one. That was one of the most common compound bows in America at the time. So there are many bows out there, and you can have them for a few bucks. You can have them, and the shipping was then more expensive than the bow."
Yes, all of the beginners in USA, they start with compound bow. They don't start with Olympic bows. And eventually, if they want to use Olympic bow, they switch from compound bow to Olympic bow. But in every school and every archery range, beginners, they're all using compound bow. So I think all compound bow and quite simple technologies, compound bow can be very easy to find in a second-hand market.
Yeah. For some time, in the early 2000s, during the 2000s, till 2008 or so, you could find very nice bows on the American eBay.
Yeah, and in Canada too.
Yeah, yeah. Also that I had two, but I gave it to my friends this old Ben Pearson glass fiber
Nice
takedown
one,
bows
yeah.
and so on. Very nice bows indeed.
Yeah, you still can find them, but shipping from America is double.
Yeah,
Like,
nowadays it's a horror. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
even if it's
180
takedown.
euros or so.
Yes. This
Yeah.
one I had once. One came to my range 4 or 5 years ago with one of these Ben Pearson. It was a greenish, bright greenish color. And I said, "Look what I have here. You know, it's some vintage old bow from my father, whatever." And I shot it, and I was like, "Whoa!" But I didn't show it. I said, "Look,
Yeah.
it's, you know, plastic. You want to sell it? I take it. You know." No, I don't sell it. From Kulo.
I had one, it looked like horn. It was like brownish with
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
like caramelized or how you
yeah,
call it, you
some
know.
white streaks in it in the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah,
It
it
was
was
like
like
marble.
if it
Like,
would
yeah,
be
interesting.
made of horn or so. Yeah,
But
very nice.
performing not bad for
No,
a plastic
no.
bow. Wow.
And you know that Ben Pearson bows, they were not exactly pure glass fiber bows. They had a kind of wooden core, but they called it molded around the glass fiber. I don't know how they did. It was a kind of special thing.
Okay, I don't know.
I had to have one because in one video Howard Hill shot one when
Yeah,
they
of
did
course.
bow
Yeah, yeah.
fishing, and so they shot this kind of Ben Pearson boat because
Mhm.
they promoted it and so on.
Yeah,
And they
this
look
is
very beautiful, you know, like
yeah,
slightly recurved. Yeah.
this is one bow I would like to have too. I mean, and I'm not a collector. It's simply for the interest of shooting this bows a few times. Yeah, it's not a collector and have 40 bows over there in my other room. But I
I
don't
gave
collect
it.
them.
I'm not a collector. I don't have
I
40
don't,
bows.
they only come here. They come here faster than I can get rid of them. You know.
I have a very old and nice friend from Tyrol, from Austria, and they are also into hill bows and so. And his son lost fun shooting the bow and arrow.
Mhm.
And then they went at my house, and he saw this Ben Pearson takedown bow, and so he would like to have this bow, and then he would shoot again. And
Mhm.
so I said, okay, then take it with you. And since then, he only shoots his
Nice.
really expensive, good Howard Hill style and every kind of bows, and he just shoots with that
Yeah.
old Ben Pearson takedown.
Sometimes, as it is, sometimes I still simply shoot the snake bow, you know, with 26 pounds, because it's such an.
And you know, at this tournament, we had a kind of primitive class, you know, with wooden bows and self-bows and
Yeah.
so, and they fooled the guys there and said, "This is a horn bow. It's made totally
Yeah,
of
totally.
horn."
Plastic horn. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Plastic
Nice.
horn, yes.
Yeah, it works. Fine. That's interesting. I mean, this is what they all developed in this time in
Yeah.
for bow and
Yeah.
arrow. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
lots of experiments. Sometimes you think it's completely crazy, but it did work.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look, there are books around with old kind of patent drawings and so what all they invented, crazy stuff. Yeah. And you know what? Archery is so wonderful because there are so many hobbies in the hobby.
Mm.
You can collect archery books, you can make your own quivers, you can
Yeah.
make your arrows, you can buy it, but you can also make it, and you can paint the arrows, and you can make bows, and you can make this and that, and study Saracen archery or what you like. So it's a big range of,
Yeah.
but maybe you could also say it about fishing or hunting. I don't know. You can also make
What
your
I
own
like
stuff.
what I like is, first of all, it's an activity everybody can do, even if a kid is whatever, a bit obese or is slow and is not good in any sport, but it can stand on the shooting range and can shoot some arrows.
Yep.
And what I personally like, we have, I said, every Sunday morning there's a family coming: the grandfather, the father, the mother, and the two kids. 3 generations
Yes.
of this family. Every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, they come and shoot for 1 hour together, and then they go whatever, have a coffee or have lunch somewhere. But it's an activity everybody can do in a family, so it's not
Yes.
excluded. Like when you see the mothers, they always bring the kids to football, and then they need to go home or need to go somewhere, have a coffee. I said, look, mom, you can directly shoot with your daughter. Oh yeah, true. And now we have a lot of these mother daughter son, what a father son coming. They come every week. It's interesting, and I like
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, something I see in our archery range, we have a field archery range in the forest with only 3D targets,
Yeah.
and it's closed by a wall. It's safe, so we can keep the targets all the time.
Oh, that's
Each
good.
Sunday morning, we match shooting for all the members of the club, or of course new members. And sometimes there are children who come and say, "Oh, I want to try archery for this time," so they register to the club. They take a license and they come once. And the parents, they come, they just put the children on the archery range and they leave. On the week after, the parents come and say, "Come with me, Dad, come with me, Dad." And they go to the field. On the week after, that's Dad and the boy who are making the archery. And sometimes even 1 month after, Mom comes and they shoot on the free.
Perfect.
It's fun when you see that. Yes, we have been able to make something which interests even the children and the parents. Well, that's nice.
And you know, opposite of some clever teachers do, when things like that happen, I always say to them, you will be surprised how easy it is. You know, a lot of people like to put, it's difficult instead, and they like to make themselves big because they can do it, so it's difficult. But think about nothing. Just look at the target, draw here and release, and you will see it's fun, it's easy. And if you train it, you will hit something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had
just a pleasure to see the arrow fly. If you feel this pleasure on the first time, you win everything.
I had last time a private group of some workers there from India and from Nepal, and I said, listen, when you have your day off, come to the range and we do an hour archery. And then the guy who really took it very serious and was always shooting, and after 20 minutes they said, "Oh, it really makes sense to listen and follow your instructions, and it works." You know, it's hilarious, really.
I think there's also something to it, because it's the same with firearms. There's something I don't know, human likes, because you can effect a target or a tin can out of your reach. So even if you plank with a 22, it's fun because you can hit it in 20 yards or something. So you on this bow and arrow is the same. You do something, and there 20 yards or 30 yards away, something happens.
It's even knife throwing, you know, even if you only throw 3 meters, you throw it away and the knife sticks over there. It's so satisfactory. It's in combat almost probably completely useless, but it's so much fun to throw knives.
You do knife throwing too, Ralph?
No, not especially. I try to throw things, of course, but my real pleasure in archery is long distance shooting, and to see the arrow fly, and when it disappears.
That's the nicest.
It was always good direction, and you got to find it. That's my real pleasure, especially when I see it flying quite straight, and I say, okay, it was a good direction. And you go to see the target. It was a big mound of straw 200 meters away, but just see the arrow going in the sky and disappearing from your sight. That's exactly the feeling I like.
I think they don't do it anymore, but back then there were these flight tournaments, you know, where this cloth on the ground was, and they shoot this long range.
Yes, in England you can do it. It's mark shoot, and it was used around the cities, and you had to shoot this marks, which was stones, and you have to go from one stone to the other to have training to shoot different distances, and to make a kind of a tour around the city. And it was a regular training for the English archers. So you still do it, and you can still make it. When I go to England, what I like is to make long distance shooting, because they have a possibility to make it. So I really look forward to be able to make it once again. And I love it. Long distance shoot. More than 100 meters, 200 meters is amazing.
My best experience was in Canary Islands. There we had set up an archery range and an old driving range of golf. And then we had a few kids, and they built their own bows. And then there was a small hill on the side, said, let's go up to this hill and then shoot down to the range. And there was a small flower circle of 3 meters or something. This is our target. And then you shoot, and it takes seconds and seconds. And then all of a sudden, you see, boom, somewhere a small dust cloud, you know. Okay, a bit to the right. And we're all completely adrenaline pumping. That was that was really nice. And the kids couldn't believe it that the bows go that far, you know, because they think, we shoot 10 meters, 20 meters. Now hold there and let go. And then boom, 150 meters or something down there. It's exciting.
Interesting is because you said, Armin, when I did my archery schools, and one of my questions, because of security and safety, always was in the beginning, what do you think how far a bow, respective an arrow, could be dangerous?
Mm.
And there comes from 10 to 300 meter every opinion.
Yeah.
So the people, some have no idea how dangerous it is, and some overestimate it, of course. Yeah. And I always say the answer is very simple. As long the arrow is in the air,
exactly, it's
dangerous.
Exactly. That's true.
I have seen a beginner's bow, so it's kind of weak bow, something like 20 pounds with a small carbon arrow you can buy for €2 in the archery shop.
Mm.
And it was used by a dummy, and I think it hit a stick inside in a car's truck, but something like 90 meters away.
Yeah.
It does. So it can be very, very complicated. And sometimes when we are making demonstrations or making attending some festivals and allowing people to shoot, we are very strict about safety. And some people, it's just bows for children. And I say to them, that's a bow for children. You see this target? Yes, it's an animal made of foam. You have the same here. Touch it and hit. And they say, oh yes, it's hard foam. And you see this child's bow? It sticks in it. So in your flesh, it would stick the same. And they say, yes, safety is important.
Yeah. I had this when I gave this course in Germany near Ravensburg. Then, and the first day we had thumb release course. Second day we went out to a small 3D parkour close by, and we crossed a big field. And I said, guys, we don't simply walk over this field. On your knees, kids said. And I only had a snake bow because I didn't bring a bow, and they had a snake bow, 22 pounds or 26 pounds with some carbon arrows, and me too. And then I measured, it was 140 meters with a plastic snake bow. It's no problem.
Yeah.
And when this arrow comes down, it still has penetration power.
I also used to say, look, we are now in the school using bows also a kid could draw.
Yeah.
And then look how dangerous they are.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Safety always first is always my thing. That's why since 9 years, nothing ever happened at my archery range here. For safety always first.
Yes.
I'm really surprised that nothing is no accident ever was with this 3D shooting, because I was on some tournaments. I thought, there were two targets on the slope, and they shot up, and the other one looking for the arrows, and so. But I never heard about an accident with 3D. No.
Yeah, maybe they don't report it. They.
Yeah, we have a good solution. My archery range is just near a church, and we have an archery range and just a small fence on the cemetery. Okay. So it goes directly from production to use. So there's never any accident.
Yeah.
But I think a doctor must report a kind of injury, like it's a shot injury, no? I think
they're supposed to do it with firearms. I don't know if I do it.
Also, if you cut a stab with a knife, he has to report it. I think so.
Or it's injury, I guess, because bow and arrow is considered.
Yes, if you know the doctor and.
Depends. The biggest problem today with arrows is these carbon arrows when they explode and you have pieces of carbon coming inside your hand. That is the real danger.
Yeah. That's a big danger. Yeah.
But you can fix it by yourself. I did this.
Yes, for 2 years you can.
There's still something left, but it's fine now.
I did it once with a razor blade, and as we have nothing to clean the wood, I had to use whiskey to clean the wood. The guy was quite unhappy because it did hurt a little bit. But he could drink it afterwards, and he was fine.
Yeah.
And Ralph, last time we had Byron Ferguson on the show, and you know what he said, and I had the suspicion. He said, if you're making your own carbon arrows, you have to spine them like wooden arrows. Because they're not similar. They're not all the same.
Depends. It's always the more
A
expensive.
high
the closer
brand.
they are, but
Yeah,
they still have a variation in
yeah,
grain, of
yeah.
course. So you really need to
He
search.
switched back to aluminum arrows because of that. Because
Yeah.
he said, I don't like to spine and weigh every one of the carbon shafts. So I,
The thing is, when it's written 500 spine, they have sometimes from 450 to 550 in this range.
Yes.
So it's
We have a
not
huge tolerance, yes.
it's not that there's
that should not be with a high-tech arrow shaft. No.
but you know they all come from China somewhere.
Yes.
But
Anyway.
what's the problem? Then you buy simply 200 shafts, you spine them all, and then the best 12 you take for
But
your.
then I can make also wooden arrows.
Yeah, of course. But you know, shoot. Even if you take the most lightweight arrows, and I had from Bear Pro, the most lightweight, these kids arrows,
Oh.
they're still for a snake bow with 20 pounds are heavy. They don't fly
Yes.
that nice. When you have a carbon arrow on it, boom, hits the target nice and fast. And the wood arrow, like, boom.
Yeah.
You shoot 20
You know,
meters, you need to shoot already, like Rick said it really nice. It's
Yes.
for as an entertaining aspect for
and
for this for archery.
today it's really difficult to get nice wooden shafting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because back then when I started, these were all cedar. I tried everything, but I'm a fan of the cedar arrows from Oregon, and these are the best. But nowadays they are even not so good as back then because there's a lot of bias, a lot of the archery, the traditional archery numbers are grown up, and yeah.
Demand is big, quality gets down.
Yeah.
The best shaft I can find is in England, sadly, and it's an archery shop called Carol Archery from Carol Edwards, and she has a huge selection of shafts. Of course, they are all spined and weighted and selected and grouped. And when I buy her a bunch of shafts, I don't have to try anything. I know they are all the same, and they have all
Okay,
been
yeah.
sorted beforehand.
If you know such an honest guy, that's okay. Yeah.
Yes,
But
she is an honest guy.
Nice.
Back then,
She does it perfectly. When I go to England, I order her how I want that type of shaft, 24, 36 shaft, and I know that I will have perfect shaft.
and
No question about it.
Cedar shafts or pine or
Fine.
pine. Okay, yeah.
But they are all sorted, spined, weighted, and they have never excluded one shaft from a lot that I've bought from her. When I go to archery shop in France, first time I do, I take all the shafts they have in 50 pounds. When I put it on the table on the go, if they roll circular, if they go, so
and
half
the
of
grain,
them go,
and
the grain, and I take 6. It took half an hour, and the guy say, okay, so 6 shafts, 12 euros.
Yeah, but doesn't help. You want quality, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and it makes a difference, especially when you shoot 3 fingers Mediterranean. It really makes a difference what the arrow is doing, and when they're not all the same. And it's still the arrow which hits the target. It's still the arrow which is
the most important part of the equipment.
You can have the best. You can have the best Oneida bow in the world. When you have a crappy arrow, you won't hit anything. You can have a snake bow. When you have a decent arrow, you still hit something. So the arrow is the more important.
Oh yes, it's not the quality of the bow. I see some people who always want to try and buy the most expensive and the latest quality high-tech bow, and they say, "Oh, I've changed my bow." Yeah, did your score improve? No, but I have beautiful bow. Okay, but you didn't change anything, and your score did not improve. You lost some money, but it's not a bow. You don't have to change your bow. I have been using the same bow for 10 years, and I'm extremely happy with it.
Yeah.
And I love it,
you
and I
get
won't
to know
change.
your bow. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
And if you're able to shoot, you're kind of able to shoot every bow a little, not to perfection, but if the bow is working, you can hit something with it. And it's the same with I used to go trap shooting with the shotgun, and these are the same guys that say, I need to buy another shotgun. I can't shoot with that one. And then a real master comes and says, give me that gun. And boom, boom, boom. It works.
Yes.
It's the same with They always tend to give the guilt to the equipment.
Always,
Oh, yes.
yes. It's the same with photography. You know, I do so many photos with my iPhone.
I know, yes.
Then they always ask me, "Oh, which camera did you use for taking my phone?" What? It's not the phone. It's the one behind the camera. And
It's
with the
your
bow,
eye.
it's the same. And with the bow, it's
Yes.
the same. Yeah, as you said, when
You know, when I made this from this Bowman puppet as a Christmas tree picture, I have a very nice Sony camera, really good camera, and I made pictures with this camera. And then I thought, okay, some days later I make some more, and I used my cheapest Samsung. And these pictures were better because you know the lights on the Christmas tree were kind of shiny,
nice
Yes.
and they are better in dark conditions than any camera, of course. If the light is not so good, the handy makes better pictures than any.
complication stuff. Yeah.
Maybe if you're a sophisticated photographer, you can do it also with a.
Yeah, then you need a tripod and whatever you need to do
Yeah,
with these things. But when you see you can take photos of the Milky Way with your mobile phone nowadays.
Yes.
Crazy,
How
crazy. Yeah.
crazy is that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, mind blown.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or long exposure. I can take with my photo a 10-minute long exposure of the sea. When I do this with a
10
camera, I need
minutes?
to put ND filters on it to get to this long shutter speed.
Yes.
Phone can do it and only put it on a tripod, leave it there for 10 minutes. No problem. And works.
And it works.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other side, cameras are nice, and I'm in this regards the
I love them too.
than with bow and arrow. Even worse, I always need to have something new. Sometimes.
Yeah. You know, sometimes we talk a little about conspiracy theories, and because we talk about
they are not conspiracy theories. We know that
no,
the truth. So
it's all true. It's all true.
Exactly.
But one good argument concerning UFOs and you know all that stuff, because when you think about it, back then till I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody had a photo. A camera with him. He saw a UFO, but he had no camera.
Yeah.
And today, everyone has a camera.
Yeah.
Goes to everyone, and there are not more pictures of UFOs.
Yes.
So today, of course, there are UFOs, but what they are, I don't know.
Because there's a software inside the camera, and when you take a picture of UFO, it automatically gets delated.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then the fact checker writes.
The NASA and the Pentagon deletes it. Yeah.
Yes.
A UFO filter.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, maybe there's a kind of app you can put it into a picture.
Yes.
A UFO app.
Exactly. Yeah, most probably. Yeah.
No, but that sounds logic to me. If there would be lots of UFOs and a lot of people seeing them, so we should have more pictures of them because everyone has a nice camera nowadays.
Yeah,
that's a good argument.
But maybe in this moment when you see a UFO, you don't. Oh, I need to take a photo now of it. You're like, oh, and then it's gone. But I don't know.
No. I have a son who is 15 years old. If you take 1 hour of 12 hours, his cell phone is inside his hand for 11 hours and 59 minutes.
Okay, yeah, it's true.
So are there any special conspiracies in France? Maybe some we don't know.
Of course, like everywhere there are conspiracies in France, like in any country. Of course, there is internet. There's a lot of time to spend, and of course, you have conspiracy and a lot of ideas, but not as much as in the US. And we don't still think that our president is a pedophilic satanist, alien, and so on. Not yet. It will come. It will come.
Reptiloid.
Give it a few more weeks. Yeah, it's fine.
Yes. But I think with your president, it's true. The lizard people say that. David Icke.
We need to check the flight list of this Virgin plane going to Epstein's Island. You know, most probably Marcon is written there 5 times too. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yes, Prince Andy, they now have
now they
on at the boys.
Exactly, yeah.
By the boys.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. The truth will never be.
But you know, on the other, I don't like with no, I have no idea to defend these Epstein people and so on. But if you think about, you go in Miami, there are two parts, a richer part of Miami and the poorer part. And if you go to the poorer part and you go to school and there are 16, 15-year-old girls, I don't think you have to put pressure on them to, if you're a millionaire, say, come with us, we fly to an island and, you know, they're interesting people. I don't know if you have to force them to do it and you give them a bit little money or so. I don't know.
But still,
I don't like to make it better than
it doesn't excuse what these adults.
No. There's no excuse.
Of course, it's easy to get these kids most probably.
I think so.
From poorer sections, when you come there with your limousine and said, "Hey, listen, want to have a ride? Want to go on a plane on a nice island?" Of course, they do.
Think about where is it in Thailand or Indonesia, where the parents selling their little girls to tourists and so on. You know,
supposed to be in Thailand, yes.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah.
But
we will see how long Ghislaine Maxwell will stay alive in the prison.
Soon she will. All the cameras will fall out in this prison.
The guards are sleeping.
All of a sudden she wakes up dead. Yeah, of course. I mean, I wish her a long life.
And interesting enough is she got now convicted, and they had a kind of metaphor. They said it's like you convict the driver from the bank robbery, but not the bank robbers, because the people who did it to that girls, no, the files are closed now. So
yeah. So always
you have to look about that Ghislaine Maxwell's family. Her father was a big media tycoon in England, working for the MI6 and also for kind of Mossad stuff, and interesting story.
Kind of like this camera girl, which was shot by Alec Baldwin. He had the same story almost. The father was MI6.
you know this. You know this, Ralph.
Copy paste. Even these conspiracy theorists.
Ralph, that's not a conspiracy. That's really true. I have seen it. Really, I'm very, let's say, critical about conspiracies. But the father of this camera woman, Alec Baldwin shot, was a Russian, a Soviet nuclear U-boat captain who was the kind of image for this Hunt for Red October movie with Sean Connery, you know? And these were Soviets. They disliked Putin. They dislike Russia because they are in their minds Soviets, because they were in the administration of the Soviets. And then after that, they fled to England, to Ukraine, and to the United States. And there, her father and also she worked for the MI6 because they're making propaganda against the Russians and so on. So it's horrible. If you just dig a little in something, you will find horrible. You never.
Yeah, I like the meme, a photo of John Wayne, and then was written, "I did 120 movies, never shot one on the set." Yeah.
That's nice.
And you know, I saw it a kind of cell phone clip. Alec Baldwin was filming himself, and now he's making himself the victim. He says, it's a hard time. Someone died, and I'm so happy you support me. So he's the victim now. He shot the personal film, and now he's the victim, the poor guy.
But you know, you never know how it's. Of course, at the end, it's his responsibility. I don't want to make it easy on him, but when this prop guy gives you something and says, listen, or whatever, you don't check again because you trust these people.
Yeah, there are some components leading to this accident, of course. Yeah.
Just ask Bruce Lee and his son.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But there they know how it happened because I think a bullet was sticking in the barrel, and after then they fired with a blank, and so the power of the blank threw out the bullet. So
Yes.
this was to explain, but here it was a live round inside that Western revolver.
Yeah, you never know.
And the not so funny part, but if you think about it, very funny, and Alec Baldwin is very anti-gun. He's big guy of anti-gun movement in the United States. So that's kind of spice to it.
Yeah, Americans.
Yeah.
Let's see if Trump comes back. Huh?
I think so.
He's willing to.
He's willing to, but I think he's not making it because the Americans are still, once you lost.
But they hate Biden. Even the Democrats now hate Biden, and he's very low. How is it called? Poll rates.
Yeah. That he even got poll rates is a wonder.
And the Democrats in the United States are very split because they have the far left greenish part of the Democrat Party, and they in the center they're kind of in our countries they would be right wingers, and they are over there Democrats. So I don't know.
What does a bird need to fly? Both wings. Oh,
I don't know if it's true, but they said also Hillary likes to come back.
Yeah, they say so. Yeah.
So the old enemies, a big showdown.
Yeah, they need to make sure that Trump doesn't win again. This was an order already of one of the families. You can't even say the name of this guy anymore because last time somebody wrote, a bow builder, a very famous composite bow builder, wrote me then a private message. Listen, you were mentioning this name Rothschild, and so you seem to be what did
anti-Semite.
Anti-Semite, yeah.
Anti-Semite.
Said what? Yeah, I said maybe because you accuse me this, maybe you see it, and maybe you should think about your own. Maybe you are the anti-Semite. Because you blame me for being anti-Semitic.
I don't know how it is in France, but in Germany and in Austria, if you are talking bad about bankers, you are an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
Really? If you say all these bankers are bandits and gangsters, anti-Semite. Nazi.
Even when you say Rothschild, when you say something about the family Rothschild, so you're against the Jews, but no, not at all.
Or George Soros.
I have
if
Jewish
you say
friends.
Something against George Soros, you're an anti-Semite.
Yeah. But look, he's silent. He doesn't say anything. So we should leave this topic. He doesn't want to make a statement.
Well, I will stay neutral. Well, in France, we don't have a lot of scandals about saying things about Jewish people, because if you are really saying bad things about Jewish people because they are Jewish, there's a law say against that, and it's considered a kind of crime, and you can go to court. So if it's there's a law about against saying bad things from someone because he's Jewish or because he's black or because he's whatever. So the law is quite strict, but of course you have always social medias saying to you, oh, you said that, so you think this, and because you think this, you are, you can take any sentence from anybody and imagine whatever you want with it.
And it's a different thing if you say Jewish people are bad, this is wrong, of course. But if you say this, and he's by accident Jewish, but he's a bad person, that should be allowed to say.
I mean, on the other way around, you saw what happened this week in Austria. There was a 9-year-old boy at school. He had to write a test, but he was exempted from wearing a face mask because of his medical condition. And then the teacher said, listen, you write the test outside. He had to sit outside in the playground, looking into his classroom at -3 degrees, and had
the boy was Jewish or what?
No. The point I want to make there is no outcry in media because it's only an Austrian boy. Imagine this would be now a refugee kid or a black boy. Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Heaven.
Then the streets would be on fire, and the education minister would be fired. But it was only an Austrian boy.
I
Nobody
think.
says, so this is, this
Yeah,
reverse
I
thing.
understand. Yes, if you say I like to keep my culture, you are a Nazi here around.
Yeah.
But if a gypsy or I don't know, a Turkish person in Austria says, I like to keep my culture, that's okay. I don't know. I don't know. If you think about it, the white people, so-called white people, are the minority on Earth.
No.
So we should be protected because they protect the minorities, no?
Yeah,
It's
no.
all crazy, all crazy.
Yeah.
All crazy.
Like
And I think you have a lot of anti-Semitism in France because of the lots of Arabs, no? Because they bring it with them, of course. I think so, no?
Today, the main problem is not anti-Semitism. It is genuine racism. Racism against especially Arabs or Muslims, because there's a theory saying that it's called big replacement, and the Arabs are coming to France, or the France is going to become an Arab and a Muslim country, and it's all a theory. And people they don't talk anymore, and they don't say bad things about Jewish people. It's very, very, very small minority, but there are right-wing parties which are making a lot of noise, and of course they campaign because we are going to elect a new president this year, and there's a lot of right-wing party, and they saying all our problems come from foreigners and from Arabs, even if they have been second or third generation. It's just a way to show and a cause to every problem, and all our problems comes from Arabs. Like you could see before, all the problems come from Jewish, and you can see all the problems come from this other country which is on the border. Always showing a target to people to while they are looking at someone else, they don't see the real problem. Just show them a target.
Of course,
but
you know, gives them an enemy that they have something, of course.
But I always say, because we have in Vienna, in our capital, we have a very socialist government in Vienna, and of course, most of the Muslim people are in Vienna, of course, because it's the biggest city and so on, and so kind of what the right wingers say is true, because my personal opinion is, I can't blame a Turkish person or an Arabic person if he likes to establish a mosque or something, because it's his culture. But if you really overdo supporting it, they had kind of Muslim kindergartens in Vienna, and they made kind of little movies. It was horrible. So it was also not okay. So my opinion is, the people, they are letting them do it and support them too much. These are the bad people, not the Muslims. They are doing it because I came here, I have my community, we like to have that Islam, and so it's okay to me, it's okay, and I love that Islamic people. I have no problem with them. But if their culture is more protected than yours, that's also not okay. It should be kind of balanced a little, no? In my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's right wing, of course. That's racist.
Let's stick to the basic. Every man is born free and equal in rights.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
That's it.
But it has to go in every direction.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Then you can try. Come and take it.
Right winger, racist.
Come and take
Come and take it.
And it's so easy today. Everything in Germany and Austria, nowadays with this, vaccine opponents and so, these are all Nazis. If you're making fun kind of Nazis, they say you're putting that horror down. You're playing it down if you're making fun of it. But if they say, I don't like to get vaccinated, and they say, you're a Nazi, then they are not playing down the Nazis' crimes. I don't know. It's
Yeah, they simply
crazy,
follow,
crazy.
follow mainstream media, brainwash. What can you say?
There was a good conspiracy. Now I have one with Notre Dame, and it's interesting enough, but that's true.
It
I
was
never heard again. I never heard again
was a
about.
landing station for UFOs. No,
No, no.
I was just saying.
When it burned,
Yeah, of course.
when was it? When it
This was
burned?
because of the crash of a UFO.
I think
Yeah.
the UFO was in the roof and exploded when they wanted to
Yeah,
start.
something like that.
No, but it's a sad story. But yeah.
But do they officially say why it burned?
Officially, we still don't know exactly what it happened. Some people say somebody just lighted a cigarette and lit it on the corner and it just burned. Some people say it was a problem of electric device which made sparkle and it burned. Some people say it was Muslim terrorists who went to. There are a lot of ideas, but no real evidence and no. So no,
And you hear
sure.
nothing about it. It was a big catastrophe and all in the media, but we hear nothing about it anymore. But
we still don't know for sure.
But what is true that in France some priests got attacked by Muslims. That's true. No?
It did happen. Yes. So some priests were killed by.
They
I wouldn't say Muslims.
Something?
I would say Islamist terrorists.
Sorry.
Muslims it could be to general and but there have been some terrorist attack in Thais, had some church and some priests were killed. But the guy was Muslim, but he was Islamist terrorist. I would name it.
I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Yeah. And I'm on the Muslim side, not with the terror, but I must not draw a kind of cartoon of Mohammed like Charlie Hebdo. I must not do it.
No.
If I know how angry they get, I must not do it. So I'm on their side too, because on the Muslim side, because why should I make it?
From this newspaper Charlie Hebdo, they have an idea which is I can say bad things about any religion, so they draw cartoons.
But why should I? But why should I?
They make cartoons with saying funny or bad things about Jewish. They do cartoons and say bad things about Muhammad, and they do it all. They do it not only against or to make fun about Muslim, but everybody.
Why should I make fun or bad pictures about any religion? Why? Of course, it's okay if you can do it for one religion. You can do it, no problem with that. But why should I? Because these are the same people say you must not talk bad to another person. This is emotion. You're hurting him, his emotions, and so on. And on the other hand, they do that. And I wouldn't make a cartoon of Buddha or of Jesus or of Mohammed. It doesn't matter. Why should they do it? This is their only business model, in my opinion.
It's a kind of business model, obviously, and they made it on purpose, but not on purpose in a way to hurt anybody. Basically, the drawings had a message, and the message was not bad message, but of course it was interpreted by people who did not like it, and that's perfectly their right to dislike this message. Personally, I don't buy this newspaper usually, so I wouldn't say I like it, but basically the rules on the law in France is that they have the right to do it. You have the right not to like it, and if you don't like it, you have the right not to buy it, and just not.
But not. But I must not everything what is allowed.
I mean,
must not do everything what is allowed.
You have the right to jump from the 7th floor, but you might don't want to do it, because
yes, you have the right.
But you have the right to.
It's your freedom.
Exactly, I'm free to do it. But
they knew exactly how angry that Muslims will get about it. They knew it exactly. They didn't. What a surprise! No,
but not many. There were only the few, and again, these extremists, they felt then whatever. But the most, when you talk to people here, and I have many Muslim friends, they were laughing about it because
Charlie newspapers, they go to court each month, almost each month they go to court because they are They are sent to court by Christians, by Muslims, by Jewish, by rich people, by they go to court how much almost each month. They have a lawyer which is full-time working.
A
for
rich
that,
guy
because
now.
each time they make an issue, they go to court. But that's something they are used to,
and they see
in France,
themselves.
it's their right. So it's my right not to like it and not to write it or not to look at it if I'm not interested.
Okay.
But that's all. If I'm not happy, if I think offended, I can go to court and make a violent. Obviously, 99% of times the journal they will win the case in court, but it's my right to go to court and to express that I disagree, and that's it. And it shall not go further than that. But of course, I can understand some people to not appreciate this images. It's their right, and they can feel offended. It's also their right. And
and sometimes they get the bill with a Kalashnikov.
It's simply a matter of taste. Some cartoons are simply funny, and others are a little tasty. Like the one in this Austrian magazine where they put the former prime minister and his wife in like
it's
a
not
crypt.
funny. It's not
And
funny.
she had she was never involved.
They made the kind of. They made the kind of, how is it called, like in Christmas, a crib picture, you know, with the three holy kings.
Yes.
And the Jesus. They made the ex-chancellor for the Joseph, and his wife, she was never in politics. She was never to be seen with his husband. She was never involved in anything. And she was the Mary with a naked breast and breastfeeding. That's not.
It's tasteless.
I dislike this ex-counselor, but that's not funny because
it doesn't deserve it, and it's for me it's tasteless. But for the one who did it, most probably, yay! That's why the same with this one.
What I criticize with Charlie Hebdo is more that because they are looking on themselves as big artists who fight for freedom, but it's a kind of, like I said, a business model, because that's why they just do this, because this could not be, by accident.
Yeah.
They like to always go to the border, to the frontier, and try how far we can get. And it's art. Oh, it's art. You don't have to be hurt. You don't have to be emotionally hurt. It's art. And that's not, for me, it's not okay.
Well, it goes a bit too far off now with archery, huh?
Could be.
And we
It's
already
about culture.
more than 2 hours, guys. We should call it an
Ooh.
And it was very interesting to talk to you. And if you want, and if you can send us another time, maybe we invite you again and we talk more about this historical archery in France.
It will be with great pleasure.
Oh, it was a great pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
It was my honor.
No, it wasn't.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
It
was
nice to see you.
See you again
in Korea or in another country.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
Maybe in France, Armin, we are expecting you.
Yeah, I need to come now to this war museum you told me, of course, but I need to see how I can travel anymore. I'm a little
possible,
because I still,
would
I prefer to leave my jeans untouched,
Maybe it would be a nice project to make a kind of book about that museum, a kind of catalog, and which kind of stuff is there and so on, the history of the museum, because it's very new. It would be
I think you can make maybe you can make a chat with somebody from the museum. I can manage that.
Yeah.
They can make you a tour of the museum. Maybe with a cell phone, thing like that. But the museum is closed in winter, so it opens the gates, the doors in spring, and it closes in the beginning of November. But I'm sure we can manage something with
that. Would be nice.
People from the museum. They are wonderful women, and they're always willing to make interesting experiences. And I think it would be something you can make.
and it would be a good promotion for the museum too, because Armin's channel is very well frequented.
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 subscribers here, of course.
Mostly female fans he has.
Yeah.
course.
My 5
They have
ex-girlfriends
good
are
taste.
subscribers, and then of course.
But a bad taste they have, or what do you say?
Okay. See you next time, guys.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. See
Thank
you.
you.
Soon, okay, we stay in contact.
Take
Thank you very
care.
much.
Take care.
And
And
to the viewers, thank you very much
straight.
for watching and subscribe.
Goodbye.
And shall we put some link to your Facebook page in the description, that if people want to get in
To the
contact
blog.
with you, Raf,
Yeah,
or
Of
only
course,
the
yes.
email address or something for
of
you?
course.
If someone who watches it wants to get in contact because he has a question or something,
I will send you information about it.
you send me the
Yeah,
information. And
the archery blog and something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, I have something.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Raf. See you next time.
Thank you,
for
Raf.
watching, guys. Hasta la vista.
Bye.